Today, friends, we are going to look at yet another favourite artist of ours who created very strange and unique images, somewhat delicately rendered and yet very powerful subjects, quite scary in some ways. His work reflects the uniqueness of his country as well, a place forested, still so close to nature and with a wonderful folklore of its own, a place that still retains its proud strangeness while revelling in some of the most breathtaking and inspirational landscapes in the world. In this episode we are going to have a little look at the life and work of Theodor Kittelsen. Kittelsen was born on the 27th of April 1857 on the coast of Norway in the town of Krakow in Greenland. His was a young life of struggle. His happy home was hit by tragedy very early when his father passed away when he was still a child. His poor mother was left with a household of 8 children and trying to keep everything together. At only 11 years old, Theodor began his working life to help bring money in for the family. He became a watchmaker's apprentice, but he was always drawing and improving his art. At 17 years old, he met Diederik Maria Aal, who instantly recognised this was a young man with a lot of talent that needed nurturing. A place was found for him at Wilhelm von Hanne's school in Christiania, that is now named Oslo. Here he studied drawing, everything being paid for by Diederik Aal, and also this continued when he transferred to Munich to study further. 1897, everything changed, and not for the better. It was now that his friend Diederik broke the news to him that he could no longer act as a sponsor for him. He just could not afford to pay for Theodor any longer. It was a sad fact of life that Kittelsen rose to overcome. He found work as a draftsman, working for various newspapers and magazines in Germany. 1882 brought better news for our young hero of the arts. He was granted a scholarship to return to studying. This time he would be heading to Paris. However, after only a year he returned to Munich. Obviously he had not been able to settle in Paris at all. Not happy, he paid his way back to Germany himself, and then in 1887 it was time to travel home. It was time to return to Norway. Now, with fresh eyes and having travelled over many years, he settled and began to become inspired by the land of his birth. He lived with his brother-in-law and sister in Lofoten, an utterly breathtaking part of Norway, their home being the Skomvær lighthouse, no less. Here Kittelsen began to write and illustrate, and over the years of his life he became one of Norway's most beloved artists. His work became full of the landscapes, but also his love of folklore and fairy tales inspired him, and most especially the tales of trolls of Norway. Once married to his wife Inga, and now with a family of his own, Kittelsen settled and set up home close to Pressfoss. Here the family home was known as Lavlia, and comprised not only a house but also a studio where he could work. And the years here provided a place where he could create some of the best works of his life, those that are most famous and most cherished. It was while living at Lavlia that he was commissioned to illustrate Norwegian folklore, a project perfectly suited to him. The folklore stories had been written by Peter Christian Asbjørnsen and Jørgen Moe. He was to provide perfectly beautiful artwork to complement the text. A great honour was bestowed upon him in 1908 when he was granted the Royal Norwegian Order of St. Olaf. Only 2 years later, in 1910 however, his health was already starting to worsen. The family had no option but to sell their beloved Lavlia and move, where in 1911 he was given a small amount of money from the state to live on. In 1914, on the 21st of January, the wonderful Theodor Kittelsen passed away at Jøløya. Inga, now a widow, was granted an annual widow's salary from the Storting. It is a sad thing that Kittelsen is not wider known name outside of Norway. because within this beautiful country he is hugely respected. His once beloved home of Folklore is now a dedicated museum to his life and work. We would love to visit there one day. That house apparently has lovely views of Lake Soneren and is very close to Mount Andersnatten, the mountain that inspired so many of Kittelsen's paintings. Folklore has originals by Theodor Kittelsen and is also decorated with wood carvings and murals by him also. There is also the Theodor Kittelsen Museum at Blafarvervaket, and it's just another place for our artistic bucket list. And so Theodor Kittelsen, such a wonderful artist, painting very strong and sometimes quite sinister subjects, but with a lightness of touch, a delicacy that only serves to emphasise the power of the creatures of the landscapes that are his subjects, and also the power of the Norwegian landscapes themselves. It's no wonder that he is so loved and respected within the wonderful country of Norway.